hang out in networks that are bigger than you think you belong in. That was the biggest thing that supported me. Is I was 26 years old, just started my company, was, we were making I'll say tens of thousands of dollars when we were just starting out. And I invested in a mastermind that was for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. And there was some 9 figures in there. I did not belong in that circle. I was the lowest earning person in that entire mastermind. And I stayed in that group for 5 years, and just learning and watching how people talked, how they operate, and how they did business at that level. It was weird because the 4 years I was in that mastermind, for the first 4 years, it wasn't really applicable to me because I wasn't making a ton of cash like they were. But one of the things that I realized was that after 4 years, when I left that mastermind and had some more success, I went back to what I'm calling like my vault from that mastermind.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. You ever need help with yours? Just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Randy Molland. And Randy started out his journey and going into the trades after high school, and was going into, I think, an electrician or electrical trades, worked in the trades, and had a great mentor, and then bought a home at age 25, and mentor had an accident on the job site and actually ended up dying, and so ended up shifting over to building a real estate investment company for a number of years. Also built a mastermind in Canada as well for about the last 3 years. Was working really hard and decided to or had some health issues and take a little bit of a step back. Created a charity to donate a portion from the rental properties, and now is also running a consulting company to help companies adding a giving component to their businesses. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Randy.
Oh, I'm stoked to be here, Devin. Thanks so much for the introduction. That was amazing.
Absolutely. I have the innate ability to take everybody's life and condense it to 30 seconds. So So awesome. Well, with that, definitely excited to have you on and have a great discussion. So I gave the 30-second version to a much longer journey, but why don't we rewind and unpack a little bit? So tell us a little bit about how your journey got started coming out of high school and going into the trades.
Yeah, I was very lucky that I got introduced to the trades at a young age. I was 16 years old when I got started in it, and just worked very hard to get up as fast as I could, and had some really good mentors along the way. And as you shared a little bit, by the time I was 22, I was a ticketed journeyman electrician and had a mentor that was kind of guiding me and pushing me to, push myself as hard as I could. So I was working a lot of extra hours. And at some point, he's like, Randy, you could probably buy a house pretty quickly. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I worked very hard. And at 25, I bought my first home and thought, hey, I'm just going to ride this out for 25 years, pay down my mortgage. And then next thing you know, I'll be financially free by 50 and I'll beat all my friends to retirement. This is going to be amazing. And 2 weeks after I bought my home, that same mentor that helped me passed away. And he was just 42 years old. And he was hit by a telephone pole on a job site. Very tragic accident, very unfortunate. And I had this moment of like, here I am thinking that I'm going to retire at 50 when I could get hit by a telephone pole at 42 and it's all over. And so I had to make this split-second decision of like, do I want to continue down this path or do I want to try something new? And I decided I wanted to go all in and see what I was capable of. So I Googled how to make a ton of money and never work again. I found real estate investing and just decided that I was going to go all in on it. I had the trades experience. I knew I could renovate properties. I knew I had some pretty good people in the space that could help me out because a lot of the people that I was wiring stuff for was rental properties. And so I just leaned into it. And so I did some training, some programs, and started a real estate investment company where we would go buy properties. We would do all the work for it. I say we because I have a business partner in it. We'd do all the work for it. Somebody else would fund the deal and we'd split the profit 50-50. So we started.
One question I had on that, because I mean, I think that's an area where, a lot of people are saying, hey, that sounds great. Somebody fronts all the money, you do the work, but then you can share the risk type of a thing. And yet, making that transition. One question I had kind of leading up to that was, so did you, certainly you worked in the trades and you did some of that, but did you have a lot of home investing real estate experience, or was it more of just, hey, I'll learn it by the school of hard knocks? Or kind of how did you make that shift from kind of being in the trades to going into real estate investing?
Yeah, I invested in a training program that is one of those typical ones where you go to the free training and they upsell you to the 3 day and then they upsell you into the big back end. And I was at a point in my life where I was just like, it's I have a very, like you have, just a very ability to think quickly and process fast. And so when I did this process and I learned of how to flip a property, I was like, $15,000 was the back end payment for this program. And I was like, if I flip one property and make $15,000, this is knowledge that I get for the rest of my life. This is an infinite ROI on the knowledge that I have. And so I decided to just invest, basically, because I'd spent all my money on my house. I invested everything on a line of credit or a credit card to learn what I was doing and to get there. And I was also in this mode of wake up. I started getting into the personal development and self-development. So I was waking up at, 3:34 in the morning, working out hard, getting my mind right, studying, learning, going and working my job for 8 hours and then coming back. And then the rest of the evening was around studying and learning. I listened to endless podcast episodes, studied worksheets, YouTube University. And I just took in as much information as I could, as quick as I could, and basically cut off all my social life and cut out everything to go all in on this. And then, like I said, that training program. And then from that training program, we started a monthly meetup here in our local town. And because, who's going to take a 25-year-old, and my business partner is 27 at the time, 25 and 27-year-old with no real estate experience, had just bought their first house, who's ever going to invest in them or work with them? So we decided to start a meetup to gain some credibility. And that is where we would say, hey, you know what? We've got a really good lawyer who wants to come in and talk about real estate investing. We'll bring them in, but we just facilitated the meetup. We didn't actually teach and train. So we were learning, but we were at the front of the room speaking to people, which gave us a lot of credibility. So as we grew that meetup from 7 people at our first meetup to over 110 people 7 years later on a monthly basis, that is how we gained a lot of credibility quickly and learned very quickly, was just immersing ourselves in the content and around the people and talking to all these people that we needed to bring in to speak. We got connected very quickly to the community.
Awesome. No, it sounds like it was and it sounds like, and had the ability to build up a great a group of people around you, such that, you could both learn as well as build credibility along the way. So it sounds like a great way to attack it. So now you went, so you switched over and kind of focused on the real estate investing, did that for a number of years. And I think that was also where you built the mastermind. And then I think at one point you mentioned that, hey, you're working a lot of hours, putting a lot of time, started to, encounter health issues and wanted to make a shift or change gears a bit. Is that right?
Yeah. So as I was building this real estate company, like I said, I got into the personal self-development where it was like wake up at 3:30, grind all day. And as I left my job, I started my own electrical contracting company to free up my time. And that was kind of my first taste of like running a full business while building the real estate company kind of in the background. And then from there, I was just like working literally like 16 hours a day, every single day of the week. I had no social life. I had no interest other than just trying to build this business. And I was driven by like, hey, I'm going to make so much money that I can retire. And eventually I worked myself into what was called a non-epileptic seizure. And so my body just completely shut down and couldn't function anymore. And at the time, my doctor said, Randy, everything around you is perfect. Your vitals are great. Everything around you is amazing. It's your own well-doing that caused this. And that was a huge eye-opening statement for me, because I was about 3 years into building my business. And I was like, man, I'm not even going to make it to 42 to get hit by a telephone pole. This is not good. And the universe works in weird ways. And a few days after that happened, one of my friends sent me a podcast with a guy where he shared, if you want to make $1 million, build a business that does $2 million and give $1 million away, and you'll feel so great about what you're building. And in that moment, I was like, that's it. That's what I've been missing. I was just here trying to make money and get caught up in the hustle. What I really wanted to do is make impact in this world. I really wanted to make a change. I wanted to be this entrepreneur. That I was never driven by the fancy cars and fancy houses. I was driven by the freedom. But now I was like, what if I attached a given component to our business? And now I was driven by something bigger than just money. I was driven by making impact and helping others and doing good things in this world. That is where I got really inspired and really excited. So I signed up for a conference called Thrive, Make Money Matter. I joined their mastermind and got involved with a bunch of philanthropic entrepreneurs and just started learning how to make my money matter. And so we came back and we took our meetup that we had that was free, and we started charging $10 for it and donating 100% of the money away. So at the time we had 30 people. So we started donating $300 a month away, which was really cool. And then as we continued to grow that, we realized that people wanted to be involved with our organization as we were making bigger impact. So we went from 30 people to 60 people to 90 people in a few months because people wanted to come in, and it became this, it was $300 helped one kid go through organized sport. That was our mission. And so for every 30 people we put in the room, we helped one kid. And so we stand at the front of the room and say, hey guys, because you chose to be here today, we helped one kid go through sport. And if you want to help more kids go through sport, we got to get more people in this room. And so people were coming in to donate $10 to be a part of this cool mission. And while they were there, they were learning real estate investing. So it was a different lead to get them in the room. And that's when I realized that there's a really cool initiative out there. By attaching a giving component to your business, you actually drew a different crowd. People got more inspired, and they wanted to be a part of your organization. So we did that up to when we had 100 plus people. So we we're almost earning $1,000 a month to a charity. And then also decided, how can we put this into our real estate portfolio? You know, real estate has kind of this greedy capitalist narrative behind it. How do we change that? How do we actually start doing it for good? So we started donating $10 per door per month from our portfolio. So a simple example is we had a 5-plex and it started donating $50 a month. And then we bought a duplex and it started donating 20, and a triplex, it started donating 30. And next thing you know, we had these consistent donations, and people really wanted to be involved or a part of our organization. And so we had some more investors step forward, and we had some more people that were inspired to come in and work with us. And that's kind of really how we scaled our business, and led me to where I am now, which is the go big to give big movement. And because of all of this, I was looking at my partner and I said, you know what? The one thing I'm aware of is that the bigger we go, the more we can give. We just need to go big to give big. And that was the turning point in my business, where I really found a lot of passion and excitement and changed the trajectory of how I was going about my life.
No, that's awesome. And I think that, you know, it's interesting. And just for the audience, I'd had a chance, you guys have your podcast, Go Big to Give Big, as well. And I had a chance to go on to that podcast and share a little bit about, you know, my giving experience and kind of my journey there. So definitely encourage people to go check out that podcast. Now, as you were getting into the, hey, I want to change life a little bit, go in a different direction, address mental health, giving components, a great area. Sounds like you didn't give up, or you didn't step away from the real estate investing as much as you just folded in the giving component into the real estate. Is that right?
That's 100% correct. So we just brought in the giving divisions, like everything that we touched, we added giving component to. So our meetup, $10 a door, or $10 per person. Our portfolio was $10 per door per month. And then our mastermind, we started donating a few $100s per member that we would use to entice speakers to come in. So we'd pay our speakers by donation. So it was a little hack inside the speaking world. Is a lot of speakers making a few $100s or $1,000 to them might not be significant, but when you say, hey, I want to make this donation to a charity of your choice, that drew them in. So we were getting a lot of really incredible speakers to come in. And that's how we started to grow our networks and expand our real estate business. And then to the point now where just this year in 2023, I just felt very called from the powers that be, whatever the God or universe you believe in was talking to me and said, Randy, you need to go all in on Go Big to Give Big, because this is a movement that the world needs to be a part of. We need to change the way that we look at capitalism. We need to change the way that we look at entrepreneurship, and how we can start attaching more giving components to organizations so that charities don't have to go out and fundraise as hard as they need to. It's just in direct proportion to businesses that are scaling. So as I buy more rental units, I help more charities. As I sell more products, I help more charities, and it's directly proportional. So now charities can actually start building businesses based on the guaranteed revenues that are coming from my company, not from, hey, I hope we can make a few $100,000 this year in events that we raise money for. Now they can start leaning on business owners to start doing that. And me as a business owner, I'm incentivized to go make more money, because now I feel like I'm doing good with it, and I don't have to feel kind of like weird around how much money I'm making if people had that same context that I did.
No, I think that definitely sounds like a great mission. So now you said, you kind of felt called to, or otherwise, are inclined to kind of really focus on the giving aspect. And I think you are also, you're working now to provide, I don't know, consultation or counseling or mentoring or whatever for other businesses to fold that in. So how long have you been doing that aspect of the business, or in other words, helping other businesses to kind of go down the path of folding and giving into their business?
Yeah, one of the really cool things that I ran a real estate investment mastermind. So I had 60 plus people in our mastermind, and a lot of them joined because they loved the giving initiatives that we were doing. And while they came in, I just started doing consultations for people on how we added our giving components back. And we just saw uh, a lot of people very interested in it, but not a lot of people able to implement it. So I probably did 60 plus consults with people in my networking communities to find out why people struggle with giving back. What were the challenges? Like, if this makes sense and people are on board with it, what stops them from giving back? And one of the biggest things is that we can't even choose a Netflix series to watch at home. How are we supposed to go pick a charity? Right? There's so many options out there. There's so many different things, and there's so much bad stigma and different things like that. So that's the first thing that stops people from wanting to give back. And so we've now found a few ways to help organizations go find their charities by creating a simple formula to find some charities that just line up to their morals and ethics that make it really simple and easy. The biggest thing that we're trying to do is make giving easy. So we find a charity that's good. The second thing we found is that people feel like their donations weren't significant enough. So they felt that, hey, if I just donate $500, it's not enough to make an impact to that charity. And so they wouldn't make the donations. So we reprogram their brains to think, hey, when you go to the gym, you don't start curling 50-pound weights. You start with a 5-pound weight and then you work your way up. It's the same thing with giving. We don't want you to start writing huge checks right away, because that might hurt your business, or it might ruin your bottom line, or you might feel like it's overtaking some of your profits. So we start small to build the muscle of giving. And then as we build that muscle up, so does your giving as we move through that, because then it just becomes part of your nature and part of your business.
No,
The
that
third
sounds.
thing was
Oh,
the
go ahead.
third thing was there's four things here, so I'll just run through them quickly.
Go ahead.
The third thing was the logistics. People found that moving the money was very hard, so we helped them by creating a new bank account that's called their giving account. And every month, when they want to go through their products or services that they're selling, that they've attached their giving to, instead of trying to make that donation directly, you just move it all into a bank account. So then now you can work with your accountant of saying, hey, here's all of our transactions that were for giving this year. And it's easy for you to track where that money goes in. And then you don't have to do it every single month. You can start picking and choosing how you want to move that money out in different components. Where maybe somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got a really cool initiative. Do you want to sponsor us? You already have an account for giving to give it away. And it helps solve a lot of the logistics. And the fourth thing is just the sales and marketing of it. A lot of people feel that it's a little bit salesy or scammy. And the biggest thing we teach people that this is a value add to your business, not the sales pitch. So you do your normal sales pitches and you do everything that you would normally do to sell, but then you just share with your clients, hey, and by the way, working with us, a portion of everything we do, or helping kids go through sport, and this is why it's important to us. And then that allows you to build a one-to-one relationship or a human-to-human relationship with your clients, as opposed to consumer and business owner. So we're trying to make it more relatable to human and build a connection, because there's a stat out there, Devin, that says 89% of all consumers would rather work with an organization that has a giving component versus one that doesn't. So when you can make that relatability to the consumer, now you have an 89% better chance that they want to work with you compared to a competitor. So those are the four main things that we found. And that's what I've been consulting on for over the past year, is helping organizations put this into their businesses. And the reason why I've started doing a lot of it was because people found that these four challenges stopped them, and they just don't have time to build philanthropicness into their business, right? Someone like yourself that's so busy, you're working all the time, you got family and stuff. And I'm like, Devin, I've got this really cool program. You should add giving. You're like, I love it. This sounds great. But then to actually implement it is very hard. Not very hard. It's very time consuming, but very easy to do. So that's where I've created my consulting company, where I come in. It's called Fractional CGO, Chief Giving Officer. And you hire me to just build the giving division of your company, put it into a playbook, and then give it back to you so that you manage it, you control it. It's all your stuff. I just helped build it out originally because it's so much time consuming to get there for a lot of people. So that's how I've been able to build a bit of my consulting company now, was around actually just solving the problem for people, not giving them the ideas.
Awesome. No, that sounds like it's a great outlay. And I said I like how you get or address the concerns, because even if people want to give, there's always the logistical hurdle or whatever you want to call it of actually setting that up and building out of the business. So it sounds like a great opportunity and a great way to give back. So, well, now as we've reached kind of the present day of the journey, it's always a great time to transition to the two questions always asked towards the end of each episode. So we're going to jump to those now. So the first question I'd like to ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made? And what'd you learn from it?
Yeah. There's a lot. I think anyone that's an entrepreneur, if they're saying that they've never faced challenges and they're not doing it right. One of the worst decisions I made was doing partnerships. I didn't know much about it, and I thought I needed partnerships in order to get to where we want to be. And so every business venture that we went into, we did partners. So me and my partner would go find partners to raise money, and then we'd find partners to build with, and then we'd find partners to do other things with. And next thing you know, you dilute your cash quite a bit because you have so many partners. And then also you have so many conflicting interests of how things are meant to be done. So partnering was actually one of the biggest challenges. It got us to where we got to, so I'm grateful for them, but learning how to do them in a different manner with creating clear and concise KPIs, knowing the metrics and the numbers very clear to know how many partners we need to make stuff happen, giving away a good chunk of your money to get a partner to come in to help you. Sometimes I felt like it became a crutch for us, where if we didn't know something, it was like, let's just go find a partner. Instead of stepping into it and learning the space and taking more of the money, we just give a chunk away and go bring a partner in. So I would say we probably could have just learned more and just been more advantageous in what we wanted to take on, as opposed to using it as a crutch and walking away.
No, I think that's it. And it's a hard one, because sometimes you're saying, hey, I'm not an expert. I want to bring these people in. And sometimes it is worthwhile to bring people in that can give you that expertise. But sometimes, as you said, you tend to use it as a crutch, or in other words, you don't put in the time and effort, where it's these are things that would really help your business and you'd be able to scale and be able to make sure that you have the experience and the knowledge and the direction to take it. And so it's that balance. So it's definitely an easy mistake to make, but a great one to learn from.
Yeah.
Second question now that I like to ask is, so now if you talk to somebody that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Hang out in networks that are bigger than you think you belong in. That was the biggest thing that supported me. Is I was 26 years old, just started my company, we were making I'll say tens of thousands of dollars when we were just starting out. And I invested in a mastermind that was for 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. And there was some 9 figures in there. I did not belong in that circle. I was the lowest earning person in that entire mastermind. And I stayed in that group for 5 years, and just learning and watching how people talked, how they operate, and how they did business at that level. It was weird because the 4 years I was in that mastermind, for the first 4 years, it wasn't really applicable to me because I wasn't making a ton of cash like they were. But one of the things that I realized was that after 4 years, when I left that mastermind and had some more success, I went back to what I'm calling like my vault from that mastermind. And I'm like, oh, I remember this conversation now that's applying to my life. And so as I was going through some of the growth in my business, I had all this repertoire to lean back on. I had friends that people paid tens of thousands of dollars to do consults with that I could just call for free. And so it was very cool to get into a room where everyone was just so much more ahead of me. I just, osmosis took everything in. Although I couldn't apply it today, when I got to the point in my business that I needed it, I had the friendships for it. I had the whereabouts and knowledge of how to handle some of the situations. And I had a lot of notes to lean back on. So getting in rooms of more successful people are the fastest way, I believe, to learn the languages and grow faster in your business.
No, I definitely think that's a great takeaway. And I think, to your point, sometimes you say, hey, we're not there today. And you may not be there today, but it doesn't mean if you're planning towards the future, that's where you want to be, then start hanging out with the people that's where you want to be at. And it can definitely accelerate you in that direction, as opposed to hanging out with the people where you're at now. Not that that's bad, but it just doesn't give you that or future direction. So I think that's definitely a great piece of advice, great takeaway. Well, now as we do wrap up the episode, if people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Yeah, our website is just gobigtogivebig.com. It's got a lot of information on there. On social media, if you just follow at Randy Molland, Molland. I'm floating around LinkedIn quite a bit right now. I'm always looking to connect with people, or Instagram. I'm sharing a lot of my giving personalities there. And those are probably the two best ways for anyone to reach out to me and get involved. And you can also check out the Go Big to Give Big podcast, where we're having cool conversations with guys like yourself that are just out here trying to inspire people to go bigger with their dreams and goals so they can get bigger with their profits.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again, Randy, for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners that are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be guests on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. A couple more things as listeners. Make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to share these journeys with even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if you ever need help with your startup, your small business along your journey with patents or trademarks, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Randy, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.